The day money stopped being real didn't happen on a battlefield. It didn't happen during a recession, or a market crash, or any event the public could see coming. It happened quietly, behind closed doors, signed by a pen, announced on a black and white television, and disguised as necessary economic policy. Today, you wake up in a world drowning in $38 trillion of U.S. debt, a world where your savings lose value every single day. Not because of bad luck, but because the system was designed to make them evaporate. Every price you pay, food, housing, insurance, is higher, not because your world changed, but because your money changed. And yet nobody asked for your permission. Nobody warned you. Nobody told you that the rules of wealth rules that lasted thousands of years were suddenly rewritten. Because the truth is simple. When gold was removed from money, money was no longer a store of value. It became an instrument of control. Tonight, we go back to the moment the world's most trusted currency, the US dollar, lost the anchor that kept it honest. We go back to 1933, and then to 1971, when two men, Franklin D. Roosevelt and Richard Nixon, made decisions that changed the destiny of every family, business, and nation on Earth. Not because they had no choice, but because the new system gave governments and central banks something they had never possessed before: unlimited power, unlimited printing, unlimited debt, unlimited control. Yet here's the paradox. While ordinary people were told that gold was obsolete, central banks around the world quietly started buying gold again at levels not seen in 70 years. Why? What do they know that the public doesn't? And more importantly, why was the gold standard erased from the history of money? Because once you understand the answer, you'll never look at your savings, your salary, or your future the same way again. To understand why the gold standard was destroyed, we must go far back. Not to 1971, not even to 1933, but to the origin of modern money itself. 1694, the birth of the debt machine. In 1694, the British government was broke. War had drained its treasury, and the crown needed money fast. So a group of wealthy merchants proposed a simple idea. Let us create a bank that prints money. You borrow it from us and pay us interest forever. That bank became the Bank of England, the world's first modern central bank. It printed money not backed by anything except a promise from the government. But the public wouldn't accept paper without trust. So the bank offered something people understood: gold. Every paper note, every pound sterling, was simply a receipt for gold stored in a vault. You gave paper, you got gold. Simple, honest, transparent. But behind that simplicity was a darker invention: fractional reserve banking. Money from nothing. Banks realized they could lend more paper than the gold they actually held. If 10 people deposited gold, the bank could issue notes to 100 people, because the bank knew most people would never show up at the same time demanding redemption. And if they did, that was called a bank run, a collapse, a moment when illusion met reality, and reality usually won. The system worked as long as people believed in it. But belief is fragile. Gold, however, is not. 1910, Jekyll Island, the secret meeting. Jump forward to centuries. A group of bankers and politicians secretly met on Jekyll Island, Georgia. Their mission: redesign the US financial system. They created something far more powerful than the Bank of England. They created the Federal Reserve, a private central bank with the power to create money control. Interest rates, bail out banks, and lend to the government itself. But the system still had one chain around its neck: gold. If the government printed too much money, people could demand gold in exchange. So inflation was limited, debt was limited, government spending was limited. And to those in power, that limitation was unacceptable. 1913 to 1929, the tension builds after the Fed's creation in 1913. The US entered World War I. To fund it, the government printed huge amounts of money. By 1929, the illusion cracked. People rushed to convert paper dollars back into gold. Banks didn't have enough. They had created too many receipts and not enough real money. The result, the Great Depression. But the real story is what happened next. 1933, Executive Order 6102, the confiscation Franklin D. Roosevelt faced a choice: let the system collapse and allow the public to reclaim their gold, or remove the anchor entirely. He chose the second. By signing Executive Order 6102, Roosevelt made it illegal for private citizens to own gold. People were forced to turn in their gold to the government, at a fixed price, under threat of prison, overnight. Americans lost the only form of money the government couldn't print. And then just months later, Roosevelt raised the price of gold. From $20.67 to $35, the government captured the profit. The public absorbed the loss, a wealth transfer disguised as policy. The gold standard wasn't abolished yet, but it was wounded. The message was clear: gold belongs to the state. Your money is whatever we say it is. But the final blow wouldn't come until 1971. 1944, Bretton Woods, the global reset as World War II ended. The world needed a new financial architecture, so 44 nations gathered in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. They created the IMF. The World Bank, the dollar-based global system. Under this system, every currency was pegged to the US dollar, and the US dollar was pegged to gold at $35 per ounce. The world trusted the system because they trusted the US. America had the strongest economy, the largest gold reserves, and the most stable political system. But this trust had a weakness. To maintain this system, the US had to hold enough gold to back every dollar in circulation. That limitation became a problem because America started spending more than it earned. Vietnam War, the Great Society programs, overseas military bases, foreign aid, loans, debt. Dollars flowed out of the US faster than gold flowed in. Eventually, other countries noticed. France, led by Charles de Gaulle, demanded gold instead of dollars. For the first time, the illusion cracked again. The world called America's bluff, and America had only two choices. 1. Stop printing money. Or 2. Break the system. In 1971, Nixon chose the second, and global money changed forever. On August 15, 1971, Richard Nixon appeared on national television. He delivered a calm, rehearsed statement. He was temporarily closing the gold window. Temporarily. That was the word he chose. But the window never reopened. It was not a temporary measure. It was a permanent fracture in the history of money. Because once gold was gone, something extraordinary happened. Money no longer had a physical limit. It became a concept, a belief, an idea backed only by trust and force. The 7-stage currency collapse pattern. Every empire that debased its currency followed the same pattern. 1. Strong money, usually gold or silver. 2. Expansion and prosperity. 3. Increased military spending. 4. Rising debt. 5. Currency debasement. 6. Loss of trust. 7. Collapse or reset. Spain, Rome, the Ottoman Empire, the British Empire. The sequence never changed. Once money becomes easy to print, governments always print too much. Once money loses its anchor, debt always explodes. Once debt explodes, inflation becomes unavoidable. And once inflation begins, the collapse is easy. Low Ogden. Where is the US today? Let's walk through the 7 stages. Stage 1, strong money for the US. This was the period from 1792 to 1913. Gold-backed, stable, respected. Stage 2, expansion and prosperity. Industrial revolution. Railroads, steel, oil, electricity. The golden age of American growth. Stage 3, excessive spending. World War I, World War II, Korea. Vietnam, a global network of military bases. Stage 4, rising debt after 1971. Debt spiraled without restraint, from billions to trillions, from manageable to existential. Stage 5, currency debasement. 1971 present. Money printing has become the solution to every crisis. .com bubble, 2008 meltdown, pandemic stimulus, bank bailouts, QE1, QE2, QE3, QE infinity, stage 6, loss of trust. Foreign nations diversify away from the dollar. China and Russia create alternatives. BRICS launches new settlement systems. Country after country buys gold. Why? Because they know exactly where the US is, stage 7. Collapse or reset, this is the stage no country can avoid. The only question is what form it takes. Will it be an inflationary unraveling, a global monetary restructuring, or a new digital system created by central banks? The hidden pattern the public was never told after 1971. The world expected inflation. But what happened was far more dangerous. A debt-based illusion replaced real wealth. Every dollar today is created through debt. Every loan becomes new money. Every printed dollar steals value from every existing dollar. And the system survives only as long as people believe in it. The architecture of debt replaced the architecture of gold. The engine of inflation replaced the stability of scarcity. And here's the twist. Whenever inflation becomes unbearable, central banks raise interest rates, creating recessions, bankruptcies, unemployment, market crashes, but never solving the underlying issue. Because the issue is simple. The system requires infinite growth in a finite world, and such a system cannot last. Today, stage 5.5, the point of no return, the US, is between stage 5 and stage 6. Debt is rising faster than GDP. Inflation is embedded. Trust is eroding. Central banks worldwide are buying gold at the fastest pace since 1950. But they tell you gold is outdated, useless, barbaric, ancient. If gold is irrelevant, why are they buying it? Why are governments accumulating it while the public is pushed toward digital money, credit, debt, and endless consumption? What do they know that we do not? And more importantly, what comes next? History does not scream, it whispers, and right now, it's whispering the same warning it gave to every failing empire. When money loses its anchor, society loses its foundation. Removing the gold standard didn't just change the economy, it changed human behavior. People stopped saving. Governments stopped budgeting. Corporations stopped investing in the real economy. Speculation replaced productivity. Debt replaced discipline. The cycle was no longer accidental. It became inevitable. Because once a system depends on unlimited printing, it must eventually face unlimited consequences. And now, we are entering the final phase. Digital currencies, surveillance, money, programmable payments, expiration dates on savings, capital controls disguised as policy. The future is not a mystery. It is a pattern that is repeated for 5,000 years. Empires rise on hard money. They collapse on paper. And the US, dollar, once the world's most trusted currency, is now approaching the same fate every empire encountered. The question is not if, it is when. And when the reset comes, those who understand money will experience a transfer of wealth, while those who trust the system will experience a transfer of power away from them. History doesn't repeat perfectly, but it always rhymes. The real question is, are you listening to the rhyme? Thank you for watching the entire documentary. If you want more deep dive investigations into financial history, hidden economic structures, and the patterns shaping our future, make sure to like this video, share it, and subscribe to Shadow Financial Historia. Your support allows us to bring more untold stories, more hidden cycles, and more financial truths to light. This is Shadow Financial Historia, where history is not just remembered, it's decoded.